Morning, everyone. Hope you all had fun last night. And hopefully some of you really enjoyed some sample tasting of that sake that she had just mentioned that we were working on. I smuggled into the state. I'm here to talk and share a little bit about my hybrid story. My hybrid story is kind of unusual, I would have to say, that really starting off myself as being a hybrid. My father is from Mexico. My mother's mother is from Sweden. My mother's father is from Denmark, which really kind of makes an interesting mix. And now my children are also hybrid, and I'm trying to teach them how to embrace their ethnicity and their cultures from various different regions. My children are Japanese, Mexican, Danish, and Swedish now. I guess you would probably call them Mexidaneses, is probably an interesting take on it. But when you think about hybrid, and especially in the creativity aspect, and I just want to talk a little bit about the West Coast to give a shout out to back home in California. Thank you. These individuals really are hybrid. If you think about the people that have innovated our industry over the many decades, there's some interesting people there in California to celebrate, as well as on the East Coast. But if you think about someone coming from engineering and then learning the design or executing a design discipline, someone coming from biotechnology and learning the aspects and integrating a holistic user experience into the biotechnology creation process, that's really key. Where this all started for me was in 1984. I was in 1984, I guess I was in 6th grade. I was shown an interesting video. I didn't speak Japanese at the time. I didn't even understand what I was consuming at that moment. I'm going to share a little bit with you. And what was so interesting about this particular movie, it was a 30-minute movie, it was the first time that I had seen amazing cinematography, technical direction in a cartoon that was not really meant for children. It was meant for young adults. And the aspect of the camera cuts and the trucking and following of the characters in this video were unlike anything in North America at that time. And I was like, wow, what is this? I want to learn more about this. So I started studying and learning about the Japanese animation industry, which led me in 1990 to do an internship in the animation industry, storyboards. I was working at a small studio called Film Roman at the time. And then in 1990, when I graduated high school, I'm moving to Japan. And so I moved to Japan, and I really sort of cut my teeth with graphic design, information design, and eventually it led me into product management, where I've spent the majority of my time in product design. And as we think about next year and the years to come afterwards, 2016 is really about embracing and executing what it really means to be a hybrid, because there's so many skills and so many disciplines that we're going to need to mash up. It's not about design. It's about mechanical and electrical engineering. It's not about brand. It's about how do you basically properly communicate and execute these visions that we want to make a reality in, whether it be a tangible physical product or a software experience. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk a little bit about some experiences. Some of you might have read the Slash series that they did on many of us that were speaking here today. So I'm going to talk a little about swagger and whimsy and what that means to me in experiences and projects that I've done. I'm going to talk about humor and tenacity. By the way, these are some of my heroes that are in these photos, like Margaret Cho and Kirsten, as well as Tom Main, Christian Louboutin, and Ray Ames. And I'm going to break them down and talk about 3 particular slices of my experience and how I apply this hybrid methodology to these projects. So the first one I'm going to talk about is swagger and whimsy. I love the opening intro video of the sort of, to a degree, parametric-like models of design that were happening right now. And this is a story of how I took design and user experience, but melded it with architecture for PlayStation 4. We were looking at a book that Patrick Schumacher, principal and partner with Zaha Hadid, and his philosophy around parametricism, basically non-Euclidean geometry. How do you make something that doesn't replicate itself in the natural world algorithmically and convert this into a user experience for a piece of consumer electronics? And so we looked at inspirational pieces and experiences around the world, and we said we want to replicate this feeling and this flow within the Sony brand and context. And this is around the time when we were working on a project called Genome, or Genome. Basically, that's the common user experience across all of the Sony products today. And there was something called Flow in PlayStation 3 that was a very basic procedural OpenGL effect that was going on in the background that my friends at Q Games in Kyoto had created. We wanted to one-up that and make it dynamic, evolving, and never replicate itself. And so we dived into some tools that us as UX designers and experience designers had never used before. So one, we deconstructed the algorithms and the math in Patrick Schumacher's book. And we also tried to assume what some of these algorithms would be based on objects and forms that we loved. And we actually wrote some math and brought it into a product called Houdini. I don't know how many in the audience know about Houdini, but it's a very high-end visual effects software usually used in the Hollywood industry. And basically, we created a construct that would then be able to be played back dynamically. And we tested this on our own desktops and our laptops. But then we worked with a set of engineers to convert that sort of animation and math, parametric math, into a system natively within Orbis, PlayStation 4, that is the background geometry to create some incredibly stunning, beautiful movements. And these movements, is that playing? Yes, it is. These movements were then very widely accepted within the organization, and we were able to roll them out across every single product line, the 4K televisions, all the Xperia mobile phones, and of course, PlayStation 4. And we're able to play with the color, modality, mood. We took into consideration in these particular demos, what is the user doing right now? Are they watching a movie, and that might reflect a certain color within the sort of geometry that we're shaping? But it was really fun to play with something that was not traditionally used in my previous experience. Mashing up architecture and user experience was really fun. We actually did another experiment where we took that same math, and at CES, we had a full 360-degree 4K projection system. And we were projecting the parametric geometry in this massive, immersive space. I'm getting goosebumps right now talking about it. And my friend Joby helped execute that. It was amazing. And you'll see this going forward. If any of you have a chance to go to CES this coming year, next year, do stop by the Sony booth, because they'll probably be doing that again with the 4K projection. It's really quite amazing. So that's one aspect of how I was able to consider mashing up this hybrid mentality with UX and architecture. Another project that relates to humor and tenacity over my experience is a story of cassoulet. This is not very often talked about. This is when I was at Apple. This is 2005 to 2007. And one of the objectives behind this project was we wanted to make sure that the open web was persistent and was widely adopted. At that time, to do anything rich and immersive and interactive, it required Flash. The team, which comprised of the heads of OpenGL and the operating core component frameworks for OS X, along with some new hires that we had brought on, previously the head of Flash engineering from Adobe, we decided to set out, what if we could do everything that Flash did, but it was open, it was royalty-free, and it allowed you to build these really rich motion graphics, user experiences, like lower third animations like you'd see in broadcast, or really rich motion graphics like that in opening title credit sequences for motion pictures, and enable it for everyone using HTML5 and CSS. And so this project was the genesis of making HTML5 video tag and CSS 3D transformations a reality, all hardware accelerated. That eventually found its way outside of WebKit and into Google Blink, and now it's pretty much everywhere. On your mobile phone, you can do hardware accelerated processing, hardware accelerated 3D transforms, video overlays, and the goal was really solidified most recently at the when Google had adopted the hardware acceleration in the Blink engine as well. So we're pretty proud of that experience, and the timely death as recently with the security flaws found in Flash. So it took a while, but we got there. The next story about creativity and grit really is interesting because it forced me to learn a brand new skill that I really didn't want to learn to sort of augment all my creativity. And this is a story of procurement and sourcing. Wow, that sounds like a really exciting topic. But if you're a startup, and if you're a hardware startup with only 3 people, you're going to have to wear lots of hats. And I had been shielded by that my entire career by having large organizations to negotiate pricing and availability and access into new technologies at Sony and at Apple and at other companies. So this is the story of dodgeball. Dodge, duck, weave, dive, and then dodge again. So we're working on this small little piece of hardware. We call it an heirloom electronic. It's really to be designed to be quiet, fundamentally calming, and humanistic. It's modeled after a woman's compact, a water-polished stone, and it just feels beautiful to hold in your hand. It's meant to basically replace your mobile phone. It lives between a mobile phone and a wearable. But in building this, one of the core, I wouldn't call it an MVP, but one of the core parameters of this and why it feels calming and humanistic is the form of it. It being round, the screen, having a custom round screen. And without this, you can't really have this experience. And so when we were doing the mechanical and electrical engineering designs for this, one, as I mentioned, we're a startup. We're bootstrapped, basically, to get to the prototype phase and everything. It was very difficult working with the major screen display manufacturers of the world to take us seriously, let alone create a custom round screen at a very low volume. But we were lucky enough to find one. And we invested everything we had into this relationship. We put a lot of money into this relationship. But unfortunately, one morning I woke up in tears, quite literally. I was in Japan. I get a phone call from our partners in Taiwan. And they basically tell me, we're really sorry, George. We're filing for bankruptcy. We can't give you your money back. Maybe. The Taiwanese government might have to allow this, but we'll get back to you. And I just had cold chills go throughout my body. That's it. Our company's done. You know, we can't, I don't want to release anything but a round screen. And so we did spend one day brainstorming about how can we overcome this. And we came up with this concept called the squircle, the square circle. And I was like, hell no, we are not doing anything that's square. And so through grit and through unique networking and searching the world, we were lucky enough to find another round screen manufacturer to help us with this journey and have it continue on. And that partner has been Sharp. And now we're able to move into mass production, and we're able to deliver on the promise that we announced at Mobile World Congress, an heirloom electronic with high-end hardwoods, immaculately perfected with execution. And I'm really thankful that I didn't give up, that grit persisted and we were able to push through and we didn't end up going with the squircle, which could have been the easy way out, actually. And I hope that everyone that has a chance to enjoy this product in the future, to make your lives more disconnected and less available, to keep your heads up in the real world and engage with those in conversation that you love, unlike the addictions that we have today with our current mobile phones, can really enjoy this product. So those are the three stories of my hybrid journey and how I've experienced through grit, persevering through a variety of different projects, and particularly most recently this hardware experience that's aged me quite a bit. But we're all very happy. So I just want to say thank you to everyone for allowing me to share this journey of hybrid with you, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the PopTech conference. Thank you.